Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Welcome to Living the Gospel of Life. I'm your host, Leticia Velasquez, and as always, we're going to start with a prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Look down, O Mother of Life, at babies who are not allowed to be born, of the poor whose lives are made difficult, of men and women who are victims of brutal violence, of the elderly and the sick killed by indifference or misguided mercy. Grant that all who believe in your Son may proclaim the gospel of life with honesty and love to the people of our time. Obtain for them the grace to accept that gospel as a gift ever new, the joy of celebrating it with gratitude throughout their lives, and the courage to bear witness to it resolutely in order to build together with all people of goodwill the civilization of truth and love, to the praise and glory of God, the Creator and lover of life. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. It is my great honor to present Patricia Sandoval, a pro-life evangelist, speaker, and author, and a show host at EWTN Español of a show called De Dos en Dos. That means 2 by 2, as Christ sent his disciples. Welcome, Patricia.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a great honor for me to be on the show.
I read Patricia's book, Transfigured. It's her autobiography, and it has many accolades on it. You have quite a few big names that are endorsing your book. Father Donald Calloway, Archbishop Salvador Corleone, Astrid Bennett Gutierrez is also an EWTN host, and Bishop Michael Barber. Congratulations on a very successful book, and most of all, that you are living the life in the grace of God. We're so happy for that.
Thank you so much. It wasn't easy, and it was not an easy process getting the book out. I mean, it took 8 years to write. I mean, because my life just kept unfolding, and then new adventures, and then something else would happen, and we just couldn't end it. So it took about 8 years until finally our Lord said, here. But, you know, I'm really happy with the feedback. A lot of young people have written to me saying that they've actually grown in faith, that they want to go back to the church. A lot of healing. A lot of people told me it's like an explosion of healing from men, women, and even teenagers. So, this book has been a big blessing.
Well, so then I certainly recommend it as a Christmas gift for a young person or not so young person. But let's go back into your life, Patricia, and say why this book is so miraculous and so absolutely riveting. You had a beautiful life in a Mexican-American family in California. And were very devout, although not a practicing Catholic in your childhood.
That's correct. I mean, I felt like I had the perfect parents, very loving. I felt very united with my brother and my sister, and we were always together when we were young. My father, very hard worker. My mom was just very loving, affectionate. But we were pretty much worldly. Material things of the world were very, very important to us. I mean, it was important to my dad. That's the way he expressed love. So the way my dad, it's very hard for my dad to say I love you or to say I miss you, to express it verbally. Or he's also not affectionate, so he would express it, buying us things. And we grew to be very materialistic. But, I got to know who Jesus and Mary were in CCD when I was preparing for my first communion. So I had a little bit of knowledge of who God was and who Jesus and Mary were. But after that, pretty much my mom got very involved into the New Age movement. Mm-hmm. And we were heavily involved. I mean, my mom, I remember she read a book and she concluded that Jesus Christ was basically an alien from a different planet. That's how far far away from our very little faith that we had. So my mom would pop in some, VHS.
That's terrible. And she brought you along. Yeah. She brought you into it, too.
Yes, we were very young. We were probably about maybe, probably starting 8 years old, 9. She would put Shirley MacLaine videos on the television, and my sister and I would sit in front of the television, and then we would meditate and, open the third eye and then line up our chakras. And we would start doing all these New Age rituals. And it even got to as far as we would go to conventions where there was, psychics and people reading your past lives and hypnosis, and they were like all these psychic fairs that we'd go to. So we got very, very involved into the New Age. I mean, pretty deep.
There was a funny story you told about you. I believe it was your friend and your mom or your sister all got readings of past lives, and all three of you were princesses in the past life.
Yes, we were actually queens. So it's like the thing that you want to hear. Yeah, we were all queens. So
and no one thought that was a little bit strange, right?
Yeah, so I sat at a little booth where they read your past life. And one of the past lives, I was an Egyptian queen, and, my husband had 7 wives, but I was the main one. And I couldn't wait to get back and tell my mother and sister that I was a queen in my past life. And when we all gathered together, my sister yelled, "I was a queen in my past life," and my mom did too. And then I was like, "I was a queen too." It just shows you that they basically just tell you what you want to hear, and it's all false.
Yeah.
But I believe
nobody was the kitchen slave. Nobody was the slave in the kitchen.
Oh no, of course not. But I really truly believe that we open great demonic doors in our house.
Mm-hmm.
And the New Age, I believe it changed my mom. She wasn't her anymore. I believe it destroyed her marriage with my father, and it destroyed our family. We opened some heavy doors, which I tell the young kids to be careful to experiment with stuff like that, because my sister and I experimented with the Ouija board, as it's in the book. These things are really dangerous. So I warn kids not to be curious, not to even, not to go there. It's not worth it. And if they have, go to confession.
Mm-hmm. Good,
right.
good. That's very good advice.
So it was around 1992. It was a pretty bad year. I feel like it's one of those probably more painful years. It's when my parents first kind of separated. But that year, before they separated, I took a sexual course, a sexual education course in my in my 6th grade. I was 12 years old, and that's where I got wrong formation about sexuality. So I was told in school, that abortion was your right, it's your body, it's your choice. They taught us how to practice something that's false. It's, they come and promote something that's called safe sex that doesn't exist, and they do this because they want future abortion patients.
Sure.
So they know that all contraceptives, they're not 100% effective, and neither are condoms. And they know that kids are kind of irresponsible, and so they handed out all these condoms. We had bananas on our table. They showed us how to apply the condom onto the banana. I mean, I'm 12 years old. I was still playing with dolls at this time. I'd never thought of any of these things. So they came in and they gave us this false education. They said that the 1st, 2nd, 3rd month, it's not a baby. It's a baby until it's the 5th month. And, back then we didn't have technology like we have now. A doctor comes into your school and tells you this is what it is or this is what it's not, and you believe that doctor. Because, people have great respect for physicians, and we didn't have all these, 5D, 6D, ultrasound machines, and we didn't have, this big pro-life movement, we didn't know too much. So everything that I learned, I believe that, and I didn't receive any education at home, sexual education. And, coming from a Hispanic family, it was very embarrassing and shameful even to talk about sex. They kind of even see it sinful in a way. So, and still today, Hispanic families, they will not talk to their kids about sex. And so I always tell parents when I'm at a talk, if you don't do it, if you don't tell them the right, the truth, then, the world's going to drag them, the world's going to lie to them. Right. So, and that's what happened with me. My parents divorced, and it was pretty traumatizing for me. And I grew up with my father. But I was basically your typical, I want to be the prettiest, I want to be the popular girl, I want to, travel, I want to make money, I want straight A's because I want a good career. And it was all me, and everything of the world. Yeah. So, I met my boyfriend I had a boyfriend at the age of 19, and we were practicing safe sex, and it failed. It actually failed on 3 occasions.
Wow.
So when I went to the doctor the first time, actually when I made my appointment to have an abortion, I wasn't going to tell my boyfriend the truth. My boyfriend knew I was pregnant. We had decided to keep the baby at first. But then the fear came back into my heart. What am I going to do? My dad's going to kick me out. I want to, there's goals I want to accomplish. This is not for me right now. It's not the time. So I just thought it would be easier to lie to my boyfriend, tell them I had a miscarriage, and just to get an abortion and then just start over and be the same person I was before. And I went into that clinic feeling so much shame. I mean, I remember getting out of my car and thinking to myself, I never thought I'd get pregnant, and I never thought I'd be walking into an abortion building. I mean, there is a great shame that starts happening as soon as you get out of that car. And I remember walking in, looking down, and, you know, walking, and I had the first appointment of the day, and I remember seeing in the lobby a ton of teenagers. I mean, there were like 13-year-olds, 14, 15-year-olds. And it was pretty shocking to me because I didn't, you know, I was 19 years old at the time. I was an adult. I thought it was like, you know, you had to be an adult to have an abortion. But I guess in California it's legal for a 13-year-old to have an abortion without her parents' consent. So she can actually cut school, you know, that's her right, go get an abortion, and her parents don't ever have to know. And I always
Same here in Connecticut. And the teachers sometimes have people that take you from school for an abortion and back again.
Wow, really?
Yep.
That's
I was a public school teacher in New York, and we had that there. I was teaching the Hispanic school, and we took them for abortion.
Can you imagine? Like, I tell this to people.
But
like,
it was happening at my school.
Right. Well, can you? I say this to my audience all the time. Can you just imagine you're taking your 13-year-old to school, you know, and then you get a call later on thinking she's in school, but what if she didn't survive that abortion? You know, what if those teachers that took those students to school didn't survive the abortion? I mean, what are they going to tell their parents? It's just horrifying that is even legal. And I remember I was really scared, but, you know, I survived the 5 minutes that they told me it was going to be. I thought, you know, I was doing the right thing for me. But you do leave the abortion clinic feeling that there's something missing, like something got sucked out of you. And the only post-care instructions were, you're going to have cramping, but you can start your work tomorrow. Here's some aspirin. They never talk to you about post-abortion syndrome. Never. Because if every woman knew what post-abortion syndrome was, I don't think women would have abortions, and I don't think men would take their women to have an abortion. Or, you know, it's just what I lived after that first abortion was very, it was like a nightmare inside of me. I mean, it was, I would see children, and it kind of traumatized me. I had nightmares. My emotions were like a roller coaster. I'd get angry, irritated at anything. I'd cry at anything. I started to treat my boyfriend poorly, and he was even starting to feel very empty, very depressed. And he would tell me all the time, I'm dreaming of a little girl calling me daddy, daddy. I had told him I had a miscarriage. But what he was experiencing, I never told him I had the abortion, but what he was experiencing were also the symptoms of post-abortion syndrome, which many men also suffer. I mean, I've had many men come up to me after my talks telling me that's why I have nightmares. That's why when I think of my ex-girlfriend, I start to cry, and I'm a man, you know, or that's why I feel empty, or that's why I started doing drugs, or that's why I started drinking. And men tell me all the time that now it makes sense. This is clicking what you're saying. And, you know, and unfortunately, I had the abortion, and my boyfriend was suffering the consequences of it, and he didn't know. So we continued practicing safe sex, and I'm different. I'm not the same person I was that I thought I was going to be before. And then it failed again the second time, but with birth control this time. And this time I just didn't tell anybody. I thought it would be easier this time because I already did it before. And this is where I went to Planned Parenthood the second time. And when I went to Planned Parenthood, I mean, they treated me. I mean, like it's in my book. The abortionist was actually applauding me during the abortion because she said I was a great patient because I was one of the few women that didn't cry or didn't kick. I didn't faint, and, you know, I was making her job easy. So she said that it was very rare that a woman didn't cry or kick, and she said, "Why, you're just laying there." And she said, "You know, you're brave. I congratulate you. This is the best thing for you." And they gave me free condoms, free contraceptives, you know, to continue practicing safe sex. But I was actually in a trap. So I had my second abortion, and they wanted me back for a third one. I mean, when they hand those condoms and those birth control, I mean, it's the cheapest consistency, like the concentration on the birth control and the quality of the condoms are the cheapest that exists. If you Google it, they're like number one is Planned Parenthood, and that's the trap that they put these kids in. You know, they know it's going to fail again. So
that's how you got there in the first place, right?
We have to also mention that birth control is not the answer.
No.
It is also an abortifacient. So it's you know. I tell God, you know, I've had this many abortions that I know of. I don't want to know until I get to heaven if by birth control, if I had anything, because we have to remember that it is possible to get pregnant, and it is possible for a woman to abort during her menstrual cycle. So it is an abortifacient. So anyhow, practicing safe sex, again, after the second abortion, feeling worse, actually feeling suicidal, wanting to take my life, having psychotic thoughts, looking at myself in the mirror, thinking you're disgusting, you're gross. My self-esteem was just on the floor, had anorexia going on, eating disorders. I mean, I was a mess after the second abortion, feeling very empty, so much anxiety, and I just didn't know what was going on. I mean, I kind of thought, okay, am I feeling this way because my family's separated, or what's going on? And I never linked it to the abortion because they don't tell you this. They don't give you these post instructions. They just tell you to take an aspirin and that if you have a problem, call the clinic. But that's all. You don't even see them again. Well, after the second abortion, I got pregnant again months later. And this time I was super angry. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm practicing safe sex. I'm doing what they taught me in school. I'm not, I think I'm kind of a smart girl, and I'm doing what they told me at the clinic. Why is this failing? And this time, I told my boyfriend on the phone I was pregnant because I wanted him to go with me to the clinic to have an abortion. I didn't want to feel the burden on myself, but I wanted somebody else to feel guilty too. And I remember I told him, "Do not get excited. I'm not going to continue this pregnancy. I'm going to have an abortion." And then he answers back, "Well, I don't want to have an abortion. I don't want to have an abortion. I want to be a father." And when he said that to me, I was enraged. I thought he was taking a right away from me. I thought he was being selfish. He didn't care about, that I was going to lose my, education and my job, and my family was going to shame me. That he didn't care about me. He only cared about himself. And I started to yell at him, "You have no right over my body. It's my body. It's my choice. You have no say. You have no right. So I'm going to go to the clinic and have an abortion. If you want to come, that's okay. If you don't, it's not your right." And, I did take the right away from him to be a father. It was, he had all the right to say that he wanted to be a father. And that's really sad today, because I've met men that have told me, "Patricia, I went to the abortion clinic. I stood in front of the door. I tried to save the life of my baby, and I couldn't save the life of my baby. I was escorted by, security. My voice has no right. I have no right." And, I do a lot of political debates in different countries when they're trying to legalize abortion. And I look at the men and I go, it's really, really sad that you guys think that you're giving a woman a right, but you're taking men's rights away completely. Where are men's rights in this? What about them? And I always say this in Congress when I go debate in Congress. You guys think that you're giving a woman a right when in fact her rights are taken away from her, because she doesn't have the right to see the screen. She doesn't have the right to hear the heartbeat, when she's about to have an abortion. She doesn't know what post-abortion syndrome is. She has the right to know that, and it's taken away from her.
And they don't talk to her about alternatives in Planned Parenthood abortion clinics.
Exactly. I mean, it's gotten to the point in our country where infanticide is legal, and it's like, why not just give the baby up for adoption? Is there any option for that baby that's alive? I mean, it's just some twisted laws that we have, I guess. And anyhow, I went for the third abortion, but this time my boyfriend was just crying, just sobbing. And that's where I started to feel guilty, because I thought, my heart feels like stone. Why am I not feeling bad? I have no feelings in my heart. I was completely numb, and he's thinking it's the first abortion when it's the third. And I just felt like trash. There's something wrong inside of me, even though the doctors tell you this is the best decision and it's legal in the country and you think it's good. There's something inside of you deep down that doesn't feel right, when there's shame involved in something and something's so hidden, even if it's legal. I mean, when there's shame, it's because something's not right. I mean, God gave us a conscience, right? But anyhow, after that, I left the boyfriend and wanted to forget everything, and I was just worse with my post-abortion syndrome, and I moved away to Sacramento, California. And when I moved away, I was basically living on my own without my father, and I saw that Planned Parenthood needed a back office nurse that spoke Spanish and English. I was not a nurse. I never went to nursing school. I was a receptionist at my old job at a doctor's office. And so I just thought, well, I speak Spanish, I speak English, I can help somehow translate or something. So when I went to the interview, I told them I'm not a nurse, but I speak Spanish. They gave me the job. They were very excited that I had 3 abortions, and they gave me a job with no credentials as a nurse. And they told me that they would train me on the spot. And I was very excited because they were paying me a very high salary at the time, very high, double the amount I was getting in Sonoma County, which was kind of, rare that they were giving me so much. But, now I know why. It's because what you see behind the black doors of Planned Parenthood is so traumatizing. They want people to stay and survive that trauma. So, a lot of people are motivated by money. They don't leave because they make a good amount of money. And I think that's why they offer so much. But, when I first started there, I was put into my manager's office, and she said, you're going to counsel 50 women. We always think abortion hurts women. We always link abortion to women. But we have to remember that these are 13-year-old girls getting abortion. I mean, is a 13-year-old really a woman? I mean, she's pretty much she just got out of childhood. Yeah, I mean, she just turned into a little teen. I mean, it's a girl. And we have to remember that there's little girls that are aborting children. And it's a lot of young girls. And I remember, counseling these girls, motivating them, telling them, you're 13 years old, you're going to suffer. You're going to bring a child to suffer in this world. This is the best, choice for you, option, solution. And I really thought I was helping them. Mm-hmm. I would motivate them saying that I had 3 abortions and that I was okay and they were going to be okay. And, looking back, 90% of these patients were Spanish-speaking patients that did not speak any English. And now looking back, I'm thinking to myself, wait, they didn't know what the consent form said before I worked there. I mean, these women that did not speak any English were signing a consent form that basically says you can die during this abortion and your family cannot sue us. They didn't understand what they were signing. And
in other words, it wasn't in Spanish, the consent form.
Nothing was translated into Spanish. So this
they counted on you to tell them the truth, and of course you were told not to.
Right. But the thing is, what I think about now is before I worked there, if 90% of their patients were Spanish-speaking, how horrifying is it? All these women that were signing consent forms and having complications, there was a big language barrier. They couldn't communicate. I mean, this is very, very unsafe. And,
what happened to them if they had complications? Did they go back to the clinic or were they on their own?
I don't know what happened to them, but I'm pretty sure that, they get sent off home. But a woman that just had an abortion, you're not going to call your friend and say, hey, I just had an abortion. Do you mind translating for me? It's just, especially a Hispanic woman. There's no way. So
they're too embarrassed.
I'm thinking they hemorrhaged and they would just go to the hospital, because one thing that abortion clinics do not do, if a woman is hemorrhaging and having a really horrible complication, they will never call an ambulance. The worst thing that can happen is an ambulance show up at an abortion clinic because it's going to end up on the news. So, I mean, I can't imagine what these Hispanic women would do if they had complications. But I was told during the consultations to never use the word baby, mother, he, she, or even the word fetus, because the word fetus gave human dignity. I had to refer to it as an it, a sac of tissue, or a blob of cells. I was instructed that during the ultrasound, because we did an ultrasound just to verify how far along the patients were before the abortion, the screen was never to face the patient. It was always to face the doctor, and even if they begged to see it, they could not see it. So I was, trained basically to change my language, to neglect the ultrasound, and I was also trained to not be friends with patients, which is really weird to me because at my old job, working with doctors, I was always trained to be compassionate, honest, patient care is number one, and it seemed like they were kind of doing the opposite here. So it was really weird to me. So I, prepared all these girls, motivated them, and then it was really strange because the next day, on Tuesday, pregnant women were coming in getting prenatal care. And so the atmosphere was completely different. The nurses were saying, or the fake nurses, because they were really not there were nurses with no credentials that were, working there too. They would see these women say, oh, your baby is this big and you're this far along. Oh, you're going to be such a great mother. And the vocabulary was completely different. And I didn't understand why. I thought, wait, this is really hypocritical. Like, what's going on? So they never would tell me what was going on. They would just kind of throw me into a situation so I could figure it out myself, I guess. It was just very strange. But Wednesday was the first abortion day I had to assist. Now, this was a living nightmare. I mean, I never expected to see what I saw the first day I assisted with an abortion. I was put into the manager's office as soon as I arrived to work. She closes the door. She's a very cold, blunt woman, and she said, all right, you are going to assist the abortionist. Abortions can only last 5 minutes because time is money. You don't know who the abortionist is because he basically jumps from different abortion clinics around the state. If we have a complication or a woman dies or anything happens and she tries to sue or the family tries to sue us, well, the abortionist is not really from here, so it's just less hassle for us. We don't have that much of an issue because he's independent. So anyhow, you will never tell a soul what you see today or any day behind these doors. And most importantly, you will never tell the mothers that after their abortion, we throw their babies away in the garbage. When she said that, there was something that pierced my heart, and I didn't understand what she was meaning. Like, I didn't get it, and it was scary, though. And I just stayed quiet. And she said, and you never tell the fathers that are in the waiting room that after each abortion, we throw their babies away in the garbage. Because we have to remind everybody that men have abortions. Just like this manager was telling me, that we throw their babies away in the garbage. I didn't say anything. I stayed quiet. And I just went on with my day. And I remember I took the first patient into the room, the operating room, and she was 3 months pregnant. I remember I put her on the table. The abortionist comes in. He doesn't say hello. He's not very cordial. He wasn't very nice. But he comes in. He says, we've got 5 minutes. So he takes the cloth off of this little table. It's called a Mayo stand. And when I look at the instruments, I mean, I never saw the instruments during my abortions. It didn't look good. It didn't look safe. Right. I mean, you see all types of clamps, scissors. A curette is basically like a circle blade. You just saw blades and all these type of things that look very scary. And then a big needle, a humongous needle, I remember. And he said, okay, so this needle is this large because we have to inject inside of her womb seven times to numb her womb. He takes the tip of the vacuum machine. It's literally a vacuum machine. It's 20 times stronger than a household machine. And he takes the tip of the vacuum, which is like a long, little thin metal with a blade on the tip. And he said, Patricia, stand behind me. We're going to start the abortion. Now, when I stood behind him, this girl is kicking and screaming. He can't stop the abortion because he's in the middle of it while she's kicking. So he's dodging her kicks. It looks so violent to me. I thought to myself, wow, this does not look good. It looks very violent. And then it dawned on me. I'm like, wait a minute. How does he know that he has everything or that he got the second tissue or the blob of cells? He can't see inside of the womb. He cannot see inside of there. I mean, it's complete blind man surgery. Right. Many countries debate with me saying legalize abortion to make it safe. And they come out with all these statistics of women that die because it's not legalized and I don't know what. And it's all baloney. There's no such thing as safe abortion. It's the same procedure if it's legal, if it's not legal, if it's done in a back alley clinic, or if it's done in a high-end hospital. It is the same procedure. It is not safe. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, my God, how does he know he's not damaging her womb? I mean, he's got a small little blade in there. And how they calculate the abortion is by time. So he looked at his watch and said, all right, 5 minutes. I think I'm done. When do you see a surgeon go into surgery and tell his staff, all right, I think we're done.
Time's up.
Time's up. It's just, no, but it's because he can't see. And he looked over at this cylinder, this glass cylinder that's attached to the machine, and he's like, all right, we took this this amount of blood out of her womb. I think we're done. Let's turn the machine off. Turns the vacuum off, opens that cylinder, and all the contents fall into a bag.
Mm-hmm.
And, my job was to go in the back room and find whatever's inside. And I really thought to myself, okay, I'm going to look for the blob of cells that I told her 2 days ago. And when the nurse that was training me, in parentheses, fake nurse, she takes these tweezers out, and to my surprise, she takes out an arm with a little hand. And she said, this is part number 1. And we need 5 parts of the baby. This was very horrifying for me. I could see details of the hands. And the detail that really struck me the most were the fingerprints, because we all have a different fingerprint, because we're all authentic, irrepeatable human beings. I mean, there's nobody else like you.
Yes.
And, she found the 2 legs, the next arm. But what broke my heart was the 5th piece, was the head. And what really, really shattered my heart was the expression on his face. I mean, you could tell that this baby, it was a 3-month baby in the womb. You could tell that this baby was screaming for its life. I mean, his little mouth was open, or her mouth was open. And you could tell the baby was trying to fight and it was trying to live, but there was nobody there that can hear him or defend him. And to see the truth, to see that, wait a minute, I was lied to. They lied to me. They deceived me. I didn't abort 3 sacks of tissue or blob of cells. I aborted 3 children that were my own. It was so horrifying to see this. I stayed numb and I stayed quiet and I kept going. I mean, I was just trying to survive this place. And I could say that working behind the doors of a clinic like this, it is literally like a step before going to hell. You see women screaming, during abortion days. Some women faint. I saw our staff dragging women down the hallways, fainted, completely out. I had to clean the rooms after. I mean, it was just a mess. There's blood, and I had to go look for the pieces of the body, and it was so horrifying to see all this and to try to even work through this. I'm looking at the staff members thinking, is anybody feeling what I'm feeling? Is anybody in horror like I'm in horror? And it's really sad to see that your coworkers have no expression, are working like robots and zombies, and that they're so traumatized by this abortion that they're just completely numb. Back then, they basically, what they did with the garbage bags of babies. I mean, at the end of the day, you collect baby pieces, and they would freeze them in a big freezer because they couldn't throw them out in the garbage bins behind the clinic, because if a woman had an abortion, went out to the back, and then just opened the garbage bin, she could see her baby there. So they froze them, and then monthly, a company named Biohazard, they would dispose of the contents in the blood. I mean, years ago, we saw a couple years ago, they were selling the body parts now. Back then they didn't. But it was just very, very horrifying for me to work there. I would cry. It was bad. It was to the point where the last day I worked there, this girl was going to get an abortion, and she was close to 6 months pregnant with twins. And that's when I just couldn't see 2 siblings. But, I didn't know how to heal my pain. I ran out of there. I didn't know God. I mean, I was into the New Age movement, like I said. So I basically started to do drugs with this boyfriend this new boyfriend that I had. And we were just doing drugs together, and it was just to numb all the pain. And I basically, after that, became a big drug addict on methamphetamine, and I just started to lose everything. I couldn't work. I couldn't pay any of my bills. I couldn't pay where I was living, and I ended up on the streets for 3 years. Completely spun out on drugs, lost. My parents didn't, most of the time they didn't know where I was, and I was just in this big abyss of darkness.
Okay.
And it was a lot of women that have had abortions, so they get into drugs. But I think my trauma was a little bit bigger because I actually saw where my children ended up. And it was one day where I fought with my boyfriend, and we got in a big argument. He got into a vehicle and left, and I was sitting on the sidewalk curb just waiting for him to come back for me and thinking he would. But, hours rolled by, and he just never showed up. And I knew I hit rock bottom. I knew I had nothing. I knew that, I could possibly die on the street, and that, I didn't know what was going to happen with my life, and I started to sob like a child. And, during that moment of sobbing, during those, tears rolling down, I started to remember when I was young, and I started to remember that I had a really close relationship with God the Father when I was taking my CCD classes, when I knew who God was. And I started to feel peace in my heart. But what I strongly felt was his presence. I felt God the Father looking down upon me from heaven. And that's when I had the courage to look up and talk to him after so many years that I was away and that I just didn't remember him. And I looked up at him and I told him, I don't have anything. I don't have my boyfriend. I don't have my family with me. And I hit rock bottom. And I thanked him. I thanked him for my family, for the beautiful things that I had in life. And I asked him to forgive me because I ruined my life. And I repented. It's like something inside of me, something inspired me to repent. And when I repented, I started to feel again that sense of peace. Like, I'm here on the street. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be okay. I had that feeling. And all of a sudden, a young girl runs out of a restaurant, and she hugs me. And she looked into my eyes. Now, her eyes were blue, and they were full of mercy. And her smile was full of love. She had blonde hair, and she had a name tag, and her name is Bonnie. And she said, Jesus loves you. Jesus loves you. I am a waitress at that restaurant. I took an order, but I saw that you were crying and you were weeping. I prayed for you, and God told me to tell you that even if your father or mother shall abandon you, he will never abandon you. He will be with you until the end of time, and that he forgives everything that you've done. And after so many years of being away, that young girl took me home.
Amazing.
She took me home to my father's home. And it was very beautiful because I thought my dad would be angry at me because I was just a failure. I shamed my family. I was a nobody. And when my father opened the door, I threw myself at his feet, and he held me, and he said, it's okay. It's going to be okay, and I love you. And for my father to say that, it's pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
My mom moved back to the States. I hadn't talked to her for a while, and, because of her prayers, she picked me up. She contacted me. She picked me up. And because of her prayers, really, she told me that she was out of the New Age movement. She came back home to the Catholic faith, and that she had been praying for me 3 years, on her knees in front of the Blessed Sacrament, offering every Mass, every rosary. My mom fasted for me. She did everything for my salvation. And I really believe that because of the Lord's divine mercy and because of my mom's prayers, I'm alive today, and that this conversion of mine and this forgiveness is due to my mom's prayers. I really believe that.
So if there are parents out there who have children in similar terrible circumstances, even if they don't know where they are, they should be assured that their prayers are going to work. Children.
The prayers of our mother are powerful, and they're always heard. I believe that they're so special to God. That's why he elevates our Blessed Mother. That's why her intercession is so powerful. That's why God wanted to do everything through a mother, because they're so powerful. And that's why I tell moms, do not give up. God really, really elevates the prayer of a mother. If he did this miracle in my life, he's always faithful. So just don't give up on your children, even if they're away from the church. And, maybe they're okay at home, but if they're away from the church, just don't give up. Your prayers are heard. And thanks to my mom, I went to confession, and I went to a Rachel Vineyard retreat to heal my abortion. I couldn't forgive myself in confession. I was confessing it over and over. And finally, when I went to this retreat, it took me many years to go. I did not want to go to this retreat. I was too ashamed to go. But when I arrived, I felt shameful, fearful. I felt like a murderer. I felt like an assassin. Like, not only did I abort my children, but I was a part of other mothers that aborted their children. And I just felt crummy about it. But it was one day during the retreat, during a prayer, that I actually got the grace to see my 3 children. It was a girl, a boy, and a girl. And they yelled a word out to me that I never thought I would even hear. When they yelled out, Mother, I said, Mother, like Mother. And they said, Mother, we love you so much. We're praying for you in heaven. and I got to see, what they were wearing. And my daughters had little dresses on and little bows in their hair. My son was dressed as if he would have lived. I would have dressed him that way. And I heard God's voice tell me in my heart that the Virgin Mary, Our Lady, brushed my daughter's hair and put those bows in their hair, put those little dresses on, and she dressed my little son up so I can see how beautiful they are. And he assured me that all the unborn children, abortion or miscarriage, doesn't matter, all the little unborn children are under her care in heaven, and that the day I arrive to heaven, that they will be greeting me. When I opened my eyes, everybody's bawling because they had father. Yeah, but I had this joy. I can't even explain this joy. It was so big because not only did I feel God's mercy, but I saw my kids' mercy. I saw my children's mercy. I saw that they forgave me. That's what I needed to heal. And that was the day that I actually, there was something inside of me that I promised that I would defend life. That I knew it was going to be hard. I knew there was going to be so many things at stake. I knew that the persecution was going to be really hard. That's what mainly the book is about, too. A lot of people hear my story in person, but the book is far beyond the talk that I give live. The book is actually also talks about all the persecution and everything that I had to go through because I made that promise to defend life. But, I always say that no matter what happens to anybody, no matter what is taken from you, I think that it's beautiful to have, like for me, there was, family members I lost, friends, a lot of things that I lost worldly. But I think that I can go to bed every night knowing that I'm at peace because I'm in the will of God. I can die today and say, you know what? Maybe things were hard. Maybe this person doesn't talk to me, or that person in my family doesn't talk to me, or maybe these people hate me. But I can go to bed, or I can die tonight knowing I'm in the will of God, and that gives you such great peace. And I think that's why I always ask God, how did the martyrs persevere? How did the martyrs, how did they tolerate that? What was their strength to be martyred and to get tortured and keep going? And I think that's what it is. It's the peace that they know that they're in the will of God. It can get you through anything. And, it's been hard, but it's also been very rewarding to be in this ministry. Sometimes you don't see fruits, and that's okay because we don't do things to see fruits. But God is so faithful that he does give us, moments of bitterness, but then he gives us sweet moments to sustain us. And I've seen beautiful fruits from this ministry. And I always tell people, when one baby is saved, a whole generation is saved. It is worth investing your time in the pro-life movement. We love deals that are like buy one, get one free. What about save one and get 1 million lives because of that one life, right?
Because an eternal soul at that, an eternal life, not just lives on earth, but lives that live forever. That's
I
such
tell
a
people all the
story.
time. And I tell people all the time, when I die, when I'm in heaven, my fruits will never die on earth because those babies that have been saved, they will have all these generations to come, and my fruits will be alive here. They will be alive, and that's what pro-lifers, that's what we do. Sometimes when we don't see fruits, I know that when people pray, for the unborn in front of a clinic, at home, the rosary, whatever, God's going to show us in heaven all the babies that were saved throughout the world because of that rosary, because you prayed in front of that clinic, that mom that, decided to walk out. We're going to see it in heaven.
That's
and
right.
that's but it is a very difficult, very attacked ministry.
Oh, of course.
But it's very rewarding. And, and I just wanted to, everybody that's listening, we're all called to be pro-life. We're all called to defend life. It's something that's happening in our generation. It's something that's happening in the buildings when we drive by to go to work, and we have to do something about it. We have to. We're called to do something and be courageous and to defend those little ones.
That's right. And God has blessed you with your own little one recently. Tell us about your beautiful family.
Yes, I never thought I'd get married. I would meet really good Catholic nuns, and they would say, hey, what do you do for a living? And I would say, well, I'm a public speaker. Oh, really? What do you talk about? Oh, my 3 abortions, my work at Planned Parenthood, my drug addiction, and I would never see them again. They would just flee. I knew, I had a sense that God did have somebody for me, but then it was when I would meet these people, I felt hopeless sometimes. But I did pray for my future husband for almost 10 years, living in chastity, giving my chastity and my purity to God, starting all over. I always tell, young kids, you can start all over. Today, tomorrow's a new day, or today's a new day. And he gave me a wonderful, wonderful husband that's 100% supportive. He goes with me sometimes on mission trips, very pro-life now, and we just had a baby 6 months ago, which is a miracle because I didn't know if we would be able to have babies after 3 abortions. Many women can't have babies after one.
Sure.
So God's been very faithful. So he's given me a beautiful family and spiritual family. I've met so many wonderful people throughout this ministry that I really feel that I have more than what I lost. I have a lot of family all over the world, actually. I have families all over the world that I'm very close to. So God is just so good. He really does bless us 1,000-fold when we give our lives to him.
Thank you so much for your beautiful story. It's so moving, Patricia, and the grace of God is evident throughout your story, the beauty of your recovery and your sharing your story. Thank you so much for reliving all that pain for us. And,
thank you. Thank God. I owe him so much. He's forgiven me so much, and I just want to repair all the damage that I've done, and I feel very called to do that. He gave me so much mercy. I don't want to keep it to myself. I want to share with all women and men that are suffering from abortion. So, I owe it to him.
Thank you so much. God bless you. And this will be aired at Christmas time, and this will be part of an article for Celebrate Life. So hopefully many, many people will be touched by your beautiful story. Where can they find you and get a copy of Transfigured?
They can go on my
website.
Yes, it's www.patriciasandoval.com. I have all my videos, my speaking schedule, and they can purchase a book or a really cool DVD of me telling my story with actors. So it kind of goes into, it's like reenactment. So it's been used in universities. It's been used in for seminarians that are going to become priests, to be pro-life priests. It's been used for preparation of marriage, so they want to board. It's been used for confirmation classes. It's an amazing DVD. It's like a mini movie. So they can find it on patriciasandoval.com.
Beautiful. And you also minister in Spanish, so that would be available in many TV shows throughout South America as well.
That's correct. EWTN.
And EWTN in Espanol. Okay, thank you so much for coming to our show. God bless you.
Hello, God's beloved. I'm Annabelle Mosley, author, professor of theology, and host of Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. I invite you to listen in and find inspiration along this sacred journey we're traveling together to make our lives a masterpiece and, with God's grace, become saints. Join me, Annabelle Mosley, for Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. God bless you. Remember, you're never alone. God is always with you.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.